Guild Wars 2 is such a massive game with so many different open world maps to play through, and within each map you can find a wide variety of different secrets and hidden areas to discover. I have spent a lot of time highlighting many different hidden areas across Tyria throughout multiple videos, and I wanted to compile all of them here into one bigger video featuring my favorite hidden areas in the entire game, the additional hidden area videos I made, my favorite hidden dungeons, my favorite map breakout areas, and my favorite secrets. Additionally, I want to throw in 3 additional hidden areas exclusive to this video that are all similar types of areas introduced with the Visions of Eternity expansion that I love a lot. So let's get started. Starting off with the Visions of Eternity, in the first map of the Shipwreck Strand, you can find a massive network of underwater tunnels located under the main parts of the map known as the Skimmerway. These tunnels, spread across the entirety of the map, are accessed from a variety of different areas and can lead you to a variety of different areas. There are a bunch of different grottos found throughout the Skimmerway, and should you discover all of them, you can unlock the Grotto Aficionado achievement. My third favorite of them is Quiggo's Hideaway. This can be easily accessed on the northern end of the map, where you can navigate through the Skimmerway into the Starry Grotto, which is a very cool grotto in its own right, but you can then find another tunnel in here that will take you to Quiggo's Hideaway. This is a really fun little room that is incredibly well decorated, but features the plush quagga known as Mr. Quiggles. This is a plush that was originally introduced in the Janther Wilds expansion that is a part of a fun collection, and is also one of my favorite homestead decorations. And I love to see him featured as an Easter egg here in the Visions of Eternity expansion, and I hope this continues in every future expansion where you can find Mr. Quiggles just hanging out somewhere random in each expansion. Plus, if you interact with Mr. Quiggles, you get the Hidden Quiggles achievement. My second favorite grotto is the Monument Cavern. This is a grotto that can be accessed from a variety of different directions, but the easiest way is probably through the small pond in the center of Whole Garden. This is another beautiful area, and it features the Illegible Cravings. That is a grave required for the End Loving Memory achievement that takes you to a wide variety of graves across the map, including in other grottos. But the biggest thing going on here is how this grotto features the Kit Sharks. This is a new creature introduced in the Visions of Eternity expansion that are found in a couple of places and have become a fan favorite creature, where it is some sort of, if I'm being slightly honest, twisted and horrifying abomination of a kitten and a shark. But at the same time, it is kind of cool, and regardless of your feelings, it's just a really cool idea and something that is really funny and shocking to discover and see for the first time. But my favorite grotto has to be one that isn't even included in the Grotto Aficionado achievement. Towards the southwestern corner of the map, there's a Skimmerway that you can navigate through to find a slightly hidden tunnel that is just relatively out of the way from anything important in the map. You can swim through it to then find an unmarked grotto featuring a dancing or potentially threatening crab on top of 3 inquest bodies. Behind the crab is a chest that presumably the crab is defending from any intruders, but you can walk up to the chest and open it. Where I just find this entire thing really fun, where 3 inquests were exploring this area, found some treasure, and then promptly died to a tiny little crab. In the number 10 spot is the Commodore's Quarter Secret Room. This is an area that a lot of people who were playing right when Lion's Arch was rebuilt following the Rimworld Season 1 probably remember, and for anyone who has done the iconic Lion's Arch Exterminator achievement for Princess knows about. Right by legendary collector Youngblood, you can come inside of this building in the Commodore's Quarter, and I am somebody who always loves interiors in video games, so being able to explore through the inside of this building and just look at all the decorations is something that I've always loved. But if you climb up the stairs, you can get to the second floor of this building and find even more decorations. But there's one tricky thing going on here where you can do a small strafe jump to get into this secret little room that is a part of the building but is really just disconnected from everything else and requires you to exercise your athleticism to get to. Inside are a couple of beds, a few chairs, a dresser, and some other stuff, where there's actually a door that would let somebody into this room in lore, but it's locked. Of course, things being locked in video games hasn't stopped many curious adventurers. In the number 9 spot is the Frost Gorge Sound Snow Climb Cave. This is an example of an area that is just a spot that I, for whatever reason, had absolutely no idea existed until recently. And in reality, there isn't too much going on inside of this cave to note. It's relatively small, and it looks like a lot of the other Frostgorge sound-based caves that you would find in this map with the snow and ice. But it is blocked off from entering unless you do a specific event. In this area, you can participate in an event starting at the Path of Starry Skies, where you help a Coden by the name of Depthless Sea. You walk around this area and just fight a bunch of the Ice Brood and clear out their presence in order to help reduce some of the dangers the Coden are facing. Afterwards, you can then do a second event to help Depthless Sea defeat the Ice Brood Coden, which takes you directly into this cave, where you find a few Ice Brood Coden, which is always a bit of a sad experience, but also fight a hulking veteran Ice Brood Goliath who made its home inside of this cave. In the number 8 spot are the Bloodstone Caves door. This is an interesting spot because many more players know about this place in the modern day of Guild Wars 2 due to recent updates, but way back in the day, it was a pretty big secret that a lot of players love to explore. In the original Guild Wars, you have the area of the Bloodstone Caves that is a relatively important location, and in Guild Wars 2, we can actually just find the entrance to the Bloodstone Caves and a small little cave system in the Straits of Devastation. This is a fun little winding area that you can explore through, which eventually takes you to the door. And this location has been an area of speculation amongst Guild Wars 2 players for a while now, because this could very well lead to some sort of piece of instance content like a raid, or even a whole open world zone that takes you through these caves and into the uncharted piece of land between the Timberline Falls and Sparkfly Fen. But with the Secrets of the Obscure expansion, we saw this place expanded on a tiny bit where players come through here during an achievement and can learn a little bit of lore, which is always fun. In the number 7 spot are the Shadowcleft Hills Tunnel. This is one of those areas that feels very obvious to find, but I would guess that most players probably don't even realize this location exists. The Shadowcleft Hills as a whole is kind of a super awkward area to be in within Sparkfly Fen in general, and there also isn't too many things going on here. Most players go to Tequato through the main waypoint or through Chokevine Gorge or down from Brulunu, but I don't think I've ever seen a single person get to Tequato through the Shadowcleft Hills. In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think I've ever been this way directly, so I can change that now in this video. But there's then a little tunnel system that is out of the way from everything else in this area, and it's actually quite large. There are a lot of tunnels and caverns in this map, and this is just another one of them, but definitely less important except for a few mining nodes and mobs that you can find in here. And I kind of just like this place for the reasons I said above, because it really doesn't serve much of a purpose. It's out of the way from everything else in the map, and most players probably haven't been through here, but it's so cool and adds a decent amount of flavor to the map because of all of that. In the number 6 spot is Old Ula Lab. Now this is a pretty iconic location that is actually incredibly important, but is really strange. You see, Ula's Lab is a relatively important location in the original Guild Wars, and as we have seen the Asura and this part of the world expanded upon in Guild Wars 2, it makes a lot of sense that we can explore more of Ula, though I think this is technically a different lab than the one Guild Wars players would be familiar with. And anyone who has ever done map completion in the Metokur province likely remembers this place because of the quiz-based hero challenge you have to do at the cave entrance and how you have to run up to the gate to get the point of interest. And for most players traveling through the world, that is all there is to do, and you tend to move on to continue exploring the rest of the map. But there is an event that I feel like already doesn't happen too often, and then also bugs causing the event to stall and not ever begin. But should the event begin, you can actually explore through this entire lab and learn a decent amount about Ula as you go through here. And the area is really cool with some defenses and a lot of decorations. With the addition of mounts and probably through some other methods as well, it is actually pretty easy to break into this place through the back entrance and explore the lab without having to wait for the event, which is always a cool experience, especially with all of the defenses. In the number 5 spot are the different Special Forces training area out of the way areas that you can find. The Special Forces training area is an incredibly useful location for players who are getting more dedicated or are super dedicated with in-game instance content in Guild Wars 2, and is super useful for practicing rotations or experimenting with builds. And that is the primary purpose of this area. It's all mechanical. But just because it's all mechanical doesn't mean you can't be doing it in a gorgeous area, and this area is indeed gorgeous with so many cool sights. But since most players just run straight to the Golem area and do whatever they are here to do, they don't really ever give themselves the opportunity to run around here and explore. And there are quite a few fun little areas that you can explore. The biggest and my favorite has to be this little crystal cave that you can come into with these incredible crystals and a bunch of other fun decorations. Then there are a couple of small ones hidden around, but you can then go into the water area, which kind of feels like it would have an invisible wall blocking it, and find another cave with a bunch of spider webs covering the entrance. In the number 4 spot are the Ice Skate Gorge elemental areas. Ice Skate Gorge is a fun area in the southeastern corner of the Gandharan Fields, which feels very random. It used to have an entrance to Lion's Arch prior to its reconstruction, which is why there is a random waypoint out here, and in Old Lion's Arch you can actually exit out this way and appear here. But beyond an event that passes through here and the waypoint, there isn't really a reason to stick around. With that event, it takes you past this little elemental area, which is super fun. But there's also a second elemental area that players can discover should they dive deeper into this area of the map. I don't think there is really anything important here, and it is an example of something we see a lot of in the Shiver Peaks, with little snowy alcoves that don't have anything in them except a few mobs and occasionally a cool decoration. And this one in particular I just like a lot because I feel like it has a super cool aesthetic and is located in a very cool area. In the number 3 spot is the Thistlereed Grove Cave. This is an area that anyone who does the post-reset leyline anomaly may know about because it is a popular spot to come to while waiting for the leyline anomaly. Thistlereed Grove is a nice little Jotun area that is fun to come through, and there are a bunch of harvesting nodes all around here that are nice to pick up, including a cauliflower garden protected by a veteran Jotun and featuring a few rams and a few fun waterfalls. But if you go down into the water, you can find the entrance to an honestly really cool looking cave with some alpine skunk swimming around in the water with a little piece of land that you can jump up onto inside of the cave. In here is a rich platinum ore vein and sometimes another platinum ore that you can mine. Even when the leyline anomaly isn't happening, you can often find some players coming through here just to mine this vein, and I think a few people even keep an odd character parked here to log in once a day to mine the vein. In the number 2 spot is the Owl Lodge Camp. This is an area that has always kind of blown my mind just because it's so big, serves no purpose, and is pretty easy to miss for a lot of players. In the southeastern corner of the Snowdon Drifts is the Owl Lodge, which I've always found the stories going on here pretty interesting to dive into as you explore Norn culture. And there are quite a few things going on here, but tucked away into the mountainside, unmarked and incredibly easy to miss for players coming through here, is this random little camp area. There isn't any reason to come through here and explore it beyond fulfilling a personal sense of adventure. If I were to guess, this location probably served a purpose when the Owl Lodge was fully functioning, but since the lodge has fallen into disarray, it serves no purpose anymore. But it is still a cool little area to come to and explore just because it is interesting and has a ton of details. But for the number 1 spot, let's go back to the Gandharan Fields and take a look at the Vigil Keep Hidden Cave. Vigil Keep is a massive fortification that I've always thought is super cool, and there are a ton of fun areas to explore, especially inside of the Vigil HQ itself. But hidden in the cliffside, you can find a pretty small opening leading to a cave. There's a dead ram at the entrance, which is very unfortunate, but is kind of helpful to help mark and spot this area. Going inside, you can find a super fun area as you find another dead ram, and then a veteran basilisk and a young basilisk, presumably its child. There are a ton of bones, a skeleton, another ram, and some other decorations all around here, which is super cool. You just have a hidden basilisk cave underneath the Vigil Keep, with a couple well-fed basilisks laying around and enjoying their full bellies. But there's also a chest that you can open should you decide to brave the basilisks, which can always be fun. And all in all, this is just a pretty hidden and out of the way location that tells a big story with just what is present in it. And the number 10 spot is Bone Grinder's Gully. This is a relatively simple area that not a lot of players actually know about. This is a point of interest in southeastern Queensdale where you can find a bunch of Edens that play a part in this local task. But in the same area is a cave that has a wall with a closed gate blocking the entrance to the cave. In front of the gate is a sign that reads, "Only truly threatening people may enter." And through normal means, you can't access this gate. If you try to interact with it, nothing happens. There's no key nearby, no pressure plate. The way to open this gate is by proving that you are a threatening person, and the easiest way to do that is to type /threaten in order to do the threaten emote. And as you do so, the gate will open and you can go through it to find a veteran cave troll who will roar at you and begin attacking you alongside some cave bats. Where this is just a fun little interaction with the world where you can find a dangerous troll, loot a rich copper vein, and admire a few different decorations in a corner of this map. And the number 9 spot is Talus Waterfalls. This area is super nostalgic for me and can be found in southwestern Timberline Falls at the Talus Water Slide. You have a bunch of fun things around here like Care Evermore, the super cool looking entrance to Mount Maelstrom, plus the entire swamp area around here, where, fun fact, my single major contribution to the Guilders 2 wiki was adding the trivia section to the Talus Water Slide wiki page, which I just copy pasted from the original Guild Wars wiki article in this section. But in this area, tucked away in the southwestern corner, you can find these gorgeous waterfalls with water pouring into this area, and at this one, you can see some foliage blocking the entrance to a little cave that you can run into to discover an incredible little area. You have a fun little cave here with a lot of waterfalls inside of it. You also got some foliage and this incredible opening to the sky that you can look up out of. Now, the only reason to come here is to find the Talus Steps Guild Trek objective if you're ever doing a guild trek. But coming here from outside of that, such as when an adventurer stumbles upon it in their travels, is just incredible because of how gorgeous this area is. And the number 8 spot is the Provernic Crypt. Now this is an area that most people should actually know about. It's a pretty large area in northern Gandarian Fields, and you have an incredible Crichton Crypt here that you can explore. There are achievements during the Shadow of the Mad King Festival that take you here for a bit of a story. You have a major story step for the Zavari personal story that takes place here, and I just love random ruins that you can dive into and explore with various traps and whatnot. But a location here that a few less players may know about is this little spinach garden located on top of the crypts, where I always love stumbling upon gardens like this, and this is a nice place to come to in order to harvest spinach. But a location that even fewer players may know about is between the spinach farm and the crypt is a little cave hidden in the cliffside. You got some fun vines dangling over the entrance, but this cave entrance is much larger, where you got a boulder in the center with some scrolls and a candle, a few bags, barrels, and some crates with this interesting smaller box on top of one of the crates. And then you got a collection of mining picks here with a couple of them right next to this little outcropping, where I don't think we know too much about this location, and I have always found it intriguing. And the number 7 spot is the Radissoum Viewpoint. This is another relatively common spot that many players know about, but I feel like I have to showcase it at some point just because of how incredible this place is. In the map of Dragon's Stand, in the eastern side of the map, you can find the remains of a Radanova's outpost, where you come through this area as you are progressing through the events around here, but if you take some time away from the meta and explore the area, you can come across a very fun detail. Because as you climb up this area, you can get to this specific spot and position your camera to be able to look outside of the map, looking out east of the map. And what is east of Dragon's Stand? Well, it's Radissoum. And as you look out from this viewpoint, you can see Radissoum off in the distance and even get an achievement for doing so, where this is just an incredible detail that I love a lot. Where I also enjoyed the style of Secret in the Gilded Hollow, where you can see the Heart of Thorns way off in the distance. And I love details like this because it makes the world of Tyria feel interconnected. And the number 6 spot is the Hidden Garden. The name of this location is kind of funny because this area is super well known, where I was hesitant to showcase it in one of these videos, but I've gotten multiple requests to, so I thought I would. Where aside from the fact that a lot of people know about this place, this area is truly hidden, where you can find the region of Deirdre's Steps and Mount Maelstrom in the northeastern corner of the map, just east of the Infinite Coil Reactor, where the main way to access this location is by killing one of 4 different guardians found in certain locations across Mount Maelstrom and accessing a portal that will take you to a different portal inside of Deirdre's Steps, depending on which guardian you fought. Where this alone is just incredible. You have an entire area of the map that is hidden away and can only be accessed if you happen to find one of these 4 guardians and then decide to jump through a mysterious portal that you have no idea where it's going to take you to. But once inside, this entire area is a massive jumping puzzle that is really fun to explore, and I love it a lot. Where this entire area is beautiful and you can see some very fun decorations around here as well. Where of course you have the namesake of the Hidden Garden located here, where you just have an absolutely gorgeous garden that looks incredible and is useful later on in the game if you progress through a couple of different collections. And the number 5 spot is the Lake Veritas Cave. No, not this cave. Not this cave. This cave. This is one of those locations that feels very obvious to exist, but I didn't know about it for a long time just because it's out of the way, where there's no unique area on the map, no point of interest, and just a random event where you kill a rampaging scale that happens every now and then. You got this section of the Great Northern Wall here with a waterfall covering the entrance that you can walk through to find a pretty cool little area, where you got a group of char in here, as well as some scale, where you can probably guess what happened here. but you just have a cave that goes off in a couple of directions with a bunch of Ascalonian ruins. One particular thing about the Great Northern Wall that I love a lot as far as exploration goes is how intricate the wall itself can be, where with it being such a big thing, there are a ton of opportunities for there to be interesting areas to explore within the wall itself, and we do see that happen across multiple zones. And this is just a small location that fits that vibe very well and is fun to come across. In the number 4 spot is Calx's Hideout. Similar to the Hidden Garden, this is a hidden area in a map that you can access via a portal, but it is much less well known compared to Hidden Garden, where you can find it in the southeastern corner of the map tucked away in the mountains, where you can access this region via Parna's Gate north of it, where this gate is often destroyed because of the shenanigans that the Skrit in this area are up to, but should the gate be repaired and active, you can walk through it to be teleported to this special area. It is a very fun looking location where you have an ancient lab of an Asuran known as Calx, who happens to be the aforementioned Parna's ancestor, where it is overrun by destroyers who can fight back as you go through a couple of events here, but you got a ton of lava all around this area, and I would assume that it is a bit deeper into the earth compared to the rest of Metrica province, but we do see destroyers messing things up here and there around the world, where I just love the vibe going on here with all the lava, as well as an ancient Asuran lab that you can explore through. In the number 3 spot is the Blasted Sepulchre. This is another guild track location, but it is just a fun area out in Diasa Plateau that is a relatively random spot already tucked away in a slightly out of reach location. In the Blasted Moors, you can find this massive Ascalonian ruin south of the Grindish Ruins point of interest, where one of my favorite areas in the game is this massive area located underneath the ruins that just looks incredible. The main way I come down here is through this old well where you can drop down here right next to a point of interest, but there are also some stairs as well as a tunnel out of here. But if you spend some time here, you can find this little doorway off on one side that is actually opened up, and you can run through it to enter a whole other room of this complex, where there are a couple of oozes in here, but this entire area just looks incredible and I think has a phenomenal vibe. Where I've mentioned this, but I just love diving deep into some old ruins and exploring them. But a fun part about this location is that with the introduction of mounts, and most likely through various other shenanigans beforehand, you can get into this hole in the wall and drop down behind this ruin into this little cave area, which is definitely just an underdeveloped part of the map, but looks cool and would be a fun hiding location for hide and seek. In the number 2 spot is the Secret Tomb in Sparkfly Fen. This is a very interesting location that I don't think I ever really explored until a recent Let's Play episode of mine, where I just walked into this tomb and found this super cool looking area and was just shocked by its existence. I think that's one of my favorite parts about doing map completion in Guild Wars 2, because no matter how many times I do it, I feel like I'll always find something new, and this place is a fantastic example for that, where there is even more going on here than I thought. You can find these 2 Sylvari Seal Guardians protecting the front of this locked tomb, where they feel compelled to protect this area, and it is a good thing they are, because occasionally an event will spawn where a bunch of Risen will attack and try to break into the tomb. You can fight back the Risen and defend the tomb, but should the event fail, it will lead into another event where the tomb is breached and you can discover that there was a champion Risen Juggernaut stuck inside who will run out of the tomb and be a dangerous threat in the area, where oftentimes this event will fail as many people often miss it happening or completely ignore it, unless you happen to try to record the event failing for a video, in which case it will never fail. But should the tomb be breached, you can actually run down into it and explore it, and I think it looks incredible as an environment. But I also love the vibes of having a cool looking tomb that serves no purpose except to house a dangerous Risen who's a part of a random event in a random map. But now for the last spot on this list, and I saved my personal favorite for last, as it is Rise Wild Green and Bloodtide Coast. This is another guild trek location, but is hidden in such a good spot that I think most players, especially if you have never happened to come here for a guild trek, miss it. On the eastern side of Rise Wild Hills, you can find this little canyon area heading into Mentaki Pass, where I think many players often don't run this way, and when they do, they go through here pretty quickly. There are no points of interest or anything really marking this location, for if you're heading from the south up to the north, it is incredibly easy to miss any sign of this place existing, but if you go from the north to the south, you can see this small little opening covered by some plants. And should you decide to investigate this opening, you can stumble upon a very beautiful location that is known as Rise Wild Green. You have this massive opening here with a ton of beautiful trees, mushrooms, flowers, and other plants. You have a collection of Sylvari themed buildings. You got an incredible table with 3 stools right next to a very cool looking fence that is blocking the way to this pond area with 2 waterfalls pouring into it. This is just a really random corner that serves a very little purpose in Guild Wars 2, but just has so many phenomenal details packed into it. So many plants, a bit of landscaping work done, and some cool decorations. Honestly, anywhere you stand in here can provide you with an incredible sight. Make sure you take a moment to look up as well, because the upper areas of this location are beautiful. And I just love places like this in Guild Wars 2 because it makes the world of Tyria feel absolutely incredible. And the number 10 spot is the highest point in the Gilded Hollow Guild Hall. This Guild Hall was introduced in the Heart of Thorns expansion and is only available to explore if you are a member of a guild that has this Guild Hall as their Guild Hall instead of any of the other three. Where all 4 guild halls have some pretty cool areas, and we've explored one in the Gilded Hollow in another video, but I want to take to the sky, where you can climb up pretty high into the sky. Back in the day, you would have to build a staircase with a ton of decorations to get up, but nowadays it's relatively easy with a sky scale. And as we get up here, there's a ton you can explore. It is a really massive area, probably even bigger than the rest of the guild hall down below, except for the fact that a good chunk of it is open air. You can find a ton of exalted ruins, there are a lot of special hidden areas, there's tons of vines, trees, and other plants, and so on and so forth. There's honestly a lot to this area, and we could probably spend a solid 15 minutes just quickly going around this area to glance at everything, but the coolest part is that once you get high enough, you can see the Heart of Thorns off in the distance. This is the massive tree that Mordermoth laid root in that you come to at the end of the Heart of Thorns expansion, and you can just see it off across the mountains and through the clouds. If you are a member of a guild that has this guild hall, I definitely recommend that you come take some time to explore up here. And the number 9 spot is this waterfall in the Wrathy Hinterlands. This is kind of a silly location that a lot of people may find dumb to put on this list, but ask yourself this: have you ever been up here? This is a waterfall located in the Archelian Digs, the massive Skrit area in the northern part of the map. As you wander through the tunnels here, you can find a lot of cool stuff and eventually pass through this area and see some waterfalls. Back in the day, I'm sure there was some way to get up here, but there was no practical way, and it just served as some decorations for this area. A cool waterfall off in the distance of this cave, which that idea alone is super cool. But nowadays, with mounts, you can get up here pretty easily and explore it, where it is not a massive area at all. It's a small extension to the cave housing the waterfalls, and you can tell that they did not expect players to get up here since the waterfalls abruptly stop. You can also fly up to the top of the waterfall and see out into the ends of the map where there's just void. Void as in nothingness and not the whole magic thing from End of Dragons. And I just like this spot. It is a random corner of the map that used to serve as decoration, but you can now hang out here amongst the bushes. It might even be a nice spot for hide and seek if you ever play that with some people. In the number 8 spot, I want to stick to the Wrathy Hinterlands for another moment and go explore a cave on the other side of the map, where this is a spot that I am willing to bet a decent amount of people know, but I just had no idea it existed until I came through here on my Let's Play series. You have the large area here of Hangman's Saddle that features a cool old human wall that is taken over by centaurs, where the centaurs have set up their camp here and will attack anyone that passes through. The only important thing of note here is this vista that you can get from map completion. As you get up to the vista to collect it, you climb up onto that cool wall, and where the vista is located at is a small gap you can jump over and get to the other side of the wall where a bunch of centaurs are located, and these centaurs are protecting a small cave. You can clear out the centaurs, including a veteran, to be able to open up a chest which has a tiny bit of stuff inside of it, and the cave itself is pretty basic. It mostly houses the centaurs and the chest with a couple of other decorations, but this spot is just another example of how I have been playing this game since 2012, and I am still discovering new things even though I have gotten road completion upwards of a dozen times. And the number 7 spot is the Abandoned Caverns Access Prohibited Point of Interest located in the ruins of Ren in the Black Citadel. This is a point of interest that most people who have completed the Black Citadel should recognize, especially with its unusual name and how it has parentheses. And you might have taken a moment to see that there is an area back there, but it is walled off, so you moved on. But with the introduction of mounts, or through some older more complicated methods, you could get back here and explore it, where it is a very beautiful cave. You have some Flame Legion devices around here near the entrance to the cave, but as you go further back, you can see some ancient Ascalonian ruins with some incredible trees and a small waterfall coming down into here. The waterfall is coming out of an old pipe that goes further into the ruins. You got some chains dangling from the rocks, and it's just an all-around really cool spot. Some players may recognize the spot because you actually come here during the personal story, where for chart players, if you do the Flame Advances mission as a member of the Ash Legion, or the Sins of the Father mission for people who pick their father's backstory to be a sorcerer shaman, you will come through this area. But if you don't do either of these stories, there's no way to get into here without jumping or flying into it. In the number 6 spot is the Dead Giant located in the Silver Waste. This is kind of just an area that is out in the open air and hidden in plain sight, but it is just off the beaten track in a way that nobody really ever comes here. It is located in the northeastern corner of the Silver Waste, pretty close to the entrance to Picaroon Scratch, which is a Scrit camp in the map. It is pretty easy to get up to with a mount, but back in the day, or if you don't have a mount, you have to run all the way down the canyon, jump up a little bit, run all the way back, then jump up a little bit again, and run all the way back. So it is definitely a bit of a journey to get here on foot. The area surrounding this place is pretty cool with some old ruins on the cliff sides of the Maguma Desert, and some people may recognize this place from the Lost Badges achievement where you have to come up here for one of the badges. But the coolest part about this place is the Dead Giant on the ground. It looks like it has been either killed by or is being scavenged by these Scrit, and likely the former for a reason I'll get into in a second. Flying up above the Dead Giant are a bunch of birds looking down at the giant, and then there are the Scrit themselves. There are a total of 4, 2 foragers and 2 bottle lobbers that are spinning in a circle around the giant before pausing for a moment and then continuing their spinning. This is honestly just a bizarre thing and a fun detail to a relatively random corner of the map. However, nearly 8 years ago now, there was a Reddit post talking about this giant, where there are 2 comments that assert or speculate 2 different ideas for what this giant is for, and both of these are things that I don't remember and can't really verify because it has been so long, but I'll just leave them here. One idea is that this was to point to the fact that the Scrit Scratch would be opened up in a future release, similar to the Centaur and Drytop that hinted towards that map's expansion. And another is that this is an Easter egg to a bug that existed in an earlier release where players are able to beat the giant boss in that map, and other bosses in other maps as well, with Scrit bottles, because the bottles apparently used to deal damage based on health percentage, where we have these Scrit wielding bottles and dancing around a dead giant. In the number 5 spot is the Onager Bivouac. This is one of those areas that you can find throughout Tyria that is its completely own unique area that doesn't have any map completion objectives and not too many important things going on. Because of that, this tends to be an area that a lot of players miss when they are completing the map, despite it being quite a big chunk of the zone, where this area is in Fireheart Rise and is located just southeast of the Highland Thaw on the western side of the map. And like I said, there are no map completion objectives in here, but it still has some interesting stuff going on. It is a location that you go to during the Fixing the Blame Story mission that requires you to select that dishonoring your allies is your biggest fear during the personal story. There is a dynamic event that occurs in the open world where you have to fight a bunch of undead mesmer illusions. Which a really interesting thing going on here is that this is an open world event that is likely the direct result of the actions of an individual that you interact with in the story instance in this area. There's also a Scrit outside of this area called the King of Johnville, who claims this place is called Johnville and that he founded it today and is basically establishing the kingdom. And if you look around the cave and read some of the objects that you can read, like this journal, you can learn that this location was home to a packed expedition force that was unfortunately slaughtered. So all in all, there are quite a few things going on in here that are fun little details, but beyond all that, this cave is a pretty beautiful area, especially on the northern end of it where there is a rich platinum vein surrounded by a bunch of trees and some light beaming in. In the number 4 spot is the Maiden's Whisper. I have been sharing some different Order Whisper spaces, and here is another one, and it is kind of a small one, but it is hidden in a pretty cool area of the world, where I've highlighted a ton of different taverns, inns, and other establishments and guilders too, and some people may recognize this inn from Ebonhawk. Well, there's a similar one located in Divinity's Reach and Rurikton. Divinity's Reach is home to so many cool taverns, inns, and bars, and this is just another one that I haven't really shown off before in a video. There are multiple floors with a ton of rooms, a cool bar, an awesome fireplace, some cool booths, and many other fun details. But if you go into the kitchen, you can find some bread cooking in a stove, a lot of different cooking utensils, and a ton of other details. And down the staircase, you can find the basement to this establishment housing some barrels and sacks and whatnot, but in the back of the basement is a lone Order of Whispers agent by the name of Willow who has a whole operation set up down here. And it's a pretty standard Order of Whispers operation, some documents, some cool tools, and some basic supplies. But this location only has the one agent, and she does say something really interesting to fellow Order of Whispers agents, and it's also bugged in that she says it to Dermot Priory people as well, where she says that she is waiting at this place until her contact arrives, where the Order of Whispers is sending her on a new mission that is likely a mission to take possession of some important object in Lion's Arch. This character was introduced with the release of Vanilla and has not been updated since then, so what her mission is exactly or what this potential object could be is still a mystery to this day. In the number 3 spot is Only Zool. This is a pretty big jumping puzzle located in Timberline Falls, where there are two special areas in this place that I want to highlight, but let's go over the jumping puzzle since it is a hidden area in its own right. But starting from Foundation 86, which is another Order Whisper space but a bit less hidden, you can enter some dredge caves where there are several different sections that you have to work through. Climbing past ice formations, jumping down a large hole with flames shooting out at you, and dropping into a massive cave that has a ton of lava, fire, monsters, and pipes that you have to climb around on until you get to the final room that has a small boss and your reward. This is overall a pretty decent jumping puzzle. It's not my favorite in the game, but I definitely love the vibes of this place. But something that many players may not realize is that there is a bonus chest that you can get in the area where you're jumping down the large hole with flames shooting out at you, where partway down is a small hole you can go through with the chest. But it is trapped in not one, but two ways, where as you come through the hole, there's a volatile destroyer that will blow up on you and deal a ton of damage, where if you survive the destroyer and head to the chest, rocks will begin falling from the ceiling that you need to be careful of. But should you survive both traps, the second wish is pretty easy to avoid. You can get this bonus chest. But a second area that less players may know about is the exit to this place. Most of the time, players will reach the end chest and just waypoint out of this cave, since that is the easiest way to leave. But if you want a more organic escape, you can find a tunnel on the southern end of the massive cave that has a bunch of traps, falling rocks, and more volatile destroyers. You can get past all these obstacles and find a hole that you can jump down into that will take you to another part of these dredge caves, but basically on the other side of the massive mountain here, where you can see hints down here that point to there being something interesting up the hole you just dropped down from, which is a cool hint for players coming into the map from this direction and you haven't seen the jumping puzzle yet. In the number 2 spot is the special torch room in the Ascalonian Catacombs. Ascalonian Catacombs is a really cool dungeon because of how many special hidden areas are located across the dungeon. We got the special jumping puzzle, the cool turkey room, and now this area which is super cool. Near the start of the dungeon from the explorable paths, you can find the Derman Prairie camp that is the staging point for this dungeon. No matter what path you choose, you run down the stairs, past a ton of traps, and fight a bunch of spiders. But if you take a moment as you get down the stairs to turn around, you can find a special room. Just like the rest of the Ascalonian Catacombs, this is a dank area with a ruined Ascalonian architecture, some torches, chains, and whatnot. But this room specifically is some sort of jail, where you can find a couple of cells with bars that the Ascalonians would have locked something or someone inside of. Why exactly there are cells in a sprawling underground catacombs is kinda beyond me, but it may be related to the undead or other monsters in some way, or some really messed up Granth acolytes. But as you have seen on your screen, in this area is an airy blue light that is shining from one of the cells, where the entire cell is lit up with this blue hue and is shining onto the ground outside of the cell, where the most likely lore explanation is that this light may have something to do with the full fire, because we know the full fire caused a lot of blue fire to erupt and whatnot. Or maybe there was a powerful creature locked in this cell that was obliterated by the full fire, like the Char were, and the essence of that being is still radiating here today. One final cool part about this room is a torch located in the corner of this room, where interacting with this torch will summon a group of ghosts that will begin attacking you. And now for the number 1 spot, for the final hidden area that I want to highlight on this list, and it is another area that is hidden in plain sight and is decently well known, but I wanted to showcase it anyways, and it is a massive windmill located in the Shaymore Fields. This is a building that most players should recognize, especially anyone who has played a human character, where overlooking the fields and located at Jeb's wheat field is this massive windmill that is basically the central landmark of this entire area here. It is a really cool building that I love a lot, but what some players may not know is that you can go inside of the building and it is incredibly decorated. You can just run up the ramps here, find the main entrance to this place and walk right in, and there's also a side entrance you can find as well. There are a ton of different floors, you can find all the windmill mechanisms and see all of the wheat that is being milled. There are a ton of moving parts that add so much detail. You can find a ton of workers all around here doing different things, like this one worker bringing stuff from inside to this wagon. You can find a ton of supplies all around this building. You can head upstairs and find multiple rooms, including this bed in the corner that has a cat playing on it, and just so many other details. I just absolutely love interiors in games, and this is one of the best ones in Guild Wars 2. There are so many fun details, and I just love how immersive this area is. This spot is decently well known, but it is just one of those things where it is just out of the way, and if you don't notice the doors, you don't really think to go inside of it, where if you haven't been here yet, I highly recommend you check it out. And the number 10 spot is a hidden area at Full Fire's heart. This is a very cool area that has existed since vanilla Guild Wars 2, but became significantly easier to get to as expansions have released, where we have Fullfire's Heart located in the Plains of Ashford, which is the location that King Adelburn casted the Fullfire from, the spell that annihilated the invading Char forces and turned the people of Ascalon into ghosts. This is a pretty important lore location, and we go under this place in the Ascalonian Catacombs dungeon, but in this location above the chamber in the dungeon is a pretty cool area of slightly buried Ascalonian ruins. You can get in super easily with a mount and then run around down here and see all the different details. I really like how this is kind of just an out of bounds area that had a lot of details put into it. It's nice when the backdrops of maps and whatnot have a lot of details because it makes exploring maps more immersive, but this location has quite a bit to it with lots of different rooms and whatnot. I especially like the fireplace that is reminiscent of the Fullfire's energies. In the number 9 spot is a secret tunnel in Bohem's Gauntlet. This location is a jumping puzzle where you basically have to carefully drop down to the chest instead of climb to it. It's a pretty big area that has a lot of water with some tunnels going into it. If you haven't taken the time to explore this area outside of just getting to the chest, I highly recommend it. But if you dive down into the water, you can find the entrance to a pretty large tunnel system that spans a good chunk of the Blazer's steps. There is not too much to say about this location because there are not a lot of intricate details. It's just a lot of tunnels with stone walls filled with water. But it's just a pretty cool spot that I didn't know about until it was pointed out to me in the previous video. And it's cool to see very expansive areas that are hidden from a typical adventurer's path. And the number 8 spot is the Bitterfrost Frontier Vantage Point. I think this is less of a hidden spot given the fact that a lot of people knew about this location when the map originally came out. It was a pretty popular screenshot location on social media. There's even a teleportation gizmo that you used to get from Blackline chests, but can now buy with Blackline statuettes, where this gizmo took you directly to this vantage point that you can see way off in the distance from down below. But this map originally released in November of 2016, which is over 7 years ago, and I haven't seen this mentioned recently, where overall it is just a very pretty area. Bitterfrost Frontier is a very nice looking map, and this is a nice little corner of it. It is indeed a nice vantage point where you can sit and look out across the map. Nowadays, you can still get that teleportation gizmo, but you can also get up here with mounts. One final cool part about this location is how cool it looks at night, where it becomes very dark and purpley. In the number 7 spot is Aurora's Remains. This is an off the beaten path area located in Brisbane Wildlands that a lot of Guild Wars 1 veterans should recognize. And this is another spot that is less hidden, but I have wanted to showcase it anyways. When I completed the vanilla world for the first time, I never knew that this place existed, and it wasn't until my second or third run through that I realized that you could come up to this location, where it is a pretty cool spot that you come to for a couple of achievements that were added after it was added to the game. And the important part about this location is an event that takes place here, where you have to help some ghostly Shining Blade agents fight back against ghostly White Mantle cultists, including a ghostly demagogue, where this is a very direct reference to the original Guild Wars, where you do the same exact thing, except everybody isn't a ghost. I always love to see references to the original Guild Wars, and a rough recreation of one of the original missions is always a fun idea. And I especially like how, while this is a pretty big area, it took me a while to even discover it in the first place back in the day, because it isn't a place you would normally go to. In the number 6 spot are the World vs. World Borderlands Cat Rooms, where these are technically three pretty important locations that players come to in the World vs. World Borderlands to buy minis, and more importantly buy the Catmander's Compendium, which gives you a whole new set of commander tags that are in the shape of a cat's head to use while you command a squad. The original version of this room is located in the Alpine Borderlands for the blue and green teams, where you have to come to the jumping puzzle in the northwestern corner of the map. You can do a tricky jump to get through some foliage and enter the room, where you can find the merchant as well as a boy swinging back and forth. Where this is a developer's mark that we saw in my top 10 secrets video. Where the Alpine Borderlands cat room is pretty cool, but we can also come to the desert Borderlands for the red team, where we can find a similar room. If you come to the northwestern corner of the map, there isn't a jumping puzzle, but there are a couple of tricky jumps you can do that will lead you into a massive chamber filled with quag and hatchlings, and the vendor you need. And I just love these two areas. Way back in the day, the Alpine Borderlands cat room was just a completely random area that people liked to get to because it was a hidden secret. And I remember when the Catmander tag was originally released, people flocked to these areas of the world, and I remember having such a hard time getting into the Desert Borderlands room because of the amount of PvP that was going on alongside the tricky jumps you needed to do. In the number 5 spot is the Austin Quarter Nook. This is a very tiny secret area that I have loved for a long time now. The Austin Quarter is located in Divinity's Reach and is the Elonian district in the city, housing many cool buildings and decorations and whatnot. But next to the southeastern entrance to the quarter is a small, closed-off area that is stuck between multiple buildings. There is no direct entrance to this place, as it serves as kind of a backyard for a couple of people's homes, so you'll have to jump down into it. Located here is just a very relaxing and peaceful spot with a ton of flowers, cool lamps, a noble and a child talking, a cool statue, and a very cool chair that you can now sit in. I just really like this area because it is a random spot in Divinity's Reach that not a lot of people know about. It is a very relaxing and pretty area, and I like to come here every now and then to just chill in these people's backyard. And the number 4 spot is the Order Whispers base located in the stronghold of Ebonhawk. In the previous video, I shouted out all of the Order Whispers bases around the world and highlighted 2 of them, so I thought I'd do another here. Where just like a couple of other spots on this list, I didn't actually know about this until pretty recently, or I did know about at some point but just forgot. Near the Fallen Angels Garrison Waypoint is a building that has an Order Whispers flag on it. In hindsight, I probably should have known about this spot, and it's not really hidden given the fact that they are advertising the fact that it is here. But anyways, you can go inside to explore a pretty cool building that has one of the Founding of Ebonhawk books you need for that achievement. But off in one corner of the house is an Ebon Vanguard soldier that you can talk to, where you can talk to this Order Whispers agent in disguise to learn a little bit about this area, where you can open the door and enter into the base, which is pretty cool. You got a few different agents around here, including a char that you can talk to, alongside a bunch of different decorations and another Founding book. I definitely came to this area at some point and just completely forgot about it. The coolest decoration in this room is a giant document that the Order Whispers are examining. There's a lot of stuff on this document, but you can easily make out a few drawings that look like a Leviathan, an Orion Arch, a Canthan structure, and an Asura Gate. And one final thing about this area is a concealed door that serves as a back entrance into this place, with a secret passage that you can go through that leads to the fields in Ebonhawk. And the number 3 spot is Zin's Cave. This was a highly suggested location in the last video, so I thought I would go ahead and highlight it here, where in Tangled Depths you can begin a bit of a lengthy journey to get to a hidden area. Where starting from the Dragon's Passage waypoint, you can make your way to the water system underneath Tangled Depths. You then follow the channels until you go into a crystal cavern underneath the Ogre camp. In this cavern is the start of a fun jumping puzzle that has 2 parts. The first is the crystal cavern itself, where you have to jump across all the crystals without falling into the water. Once you do that, you come to a bunch of tree roots that you can begin climbing up all the way to the top. With the release of the various mounts, the entire process becomes a lot easier. Using a skimmer in the water chambers makes that much faster and easier. Then using a sky skill or another mount to help you in the jumping puzzle also makes it significantly easier, but you also have gliding that you can use to your advantage as well. Once you reach the top, you can talk to a golem guarding the door, give the right answer, and go through the newly opened door into this cool chamber. It is an old Asuran structure with decorations similar to that of Radanovis. It is very pretty with a ton of purple mushrooms all along the ground and purple plants hanging from the ceiling. And in the center of the room, up on the ceiling, is a giant disco ball, where in order to complete this puzzle, also known as Disco Dancing Dilver, you can type in /dance into your chat log to begin dancing. This will give you the achievement and also create a fun, small little world event that will begin taking place around the room. In the number 2 spot is the cave system underneath the Cerebeth Canyon waterfalls. This is kind of a random spot that I just really like a lot. It's also a spot that exists out in the open world in the middle of the map without anything really blocking it, but it is a spot that I discovered very recently. I don't know why, but I just never really thought about or noticed that this cave existed. You have the vista up top that shows you a cool overview of the area, but I never really noticed the cave until recently. This entire area is very pretty with all the waterfalls, the river, and all the plants and wildlife. The river itself is actually one of my favorite rivers in all of Guild Wars 2, but going inside the cave, it's just pretty cool. I really like the cave structure itself with all the different turns and layers and whatnot. There are more waterfalls inside of the cave with water that leads out into the river as well as through another entrance. You have drakes and oozes scattered throughout. You have these cool fallen rocks that are blocking the path through the cave that you can break in order to get around. You have a bunch of cave trolls, including a veteran one protecting a rich iron vein. And you got a bunch of plants all around this area. I feel a little silly that I never noticed this cave existed because I probably passed by it upwards of 10,000 times, but nevertheless it is super cool and I like it a lot. And now for the number 1 spot. for my favorite hidden spot in Guild Wars 2 from the 10 that I am showcasing on this list, and it is a hidden jumping puzzle in the Ascalonian Catacombs dungeon. This is a highly requested location that I have known about for a long time but never went to check it out until recently. As you progress through Ascalonian Catacombs, especially paths 1 and 3, you can eventually reach the Lair of the Patriarch. This is where you fight the final boss for those 2 respective paths. And as you fight the final boss, or sit around in the area after killing them, you can see a set of old Ascalonian style stairs in the far side of the room that you can begin making your way up of. There are some nooks and crannies that are pretty cool, but as you reach the top, you can pass through some foliage covering a hidden entrance to a giant chamber. And this chamber is super cool. It's a massive open area with a deep, dark pit and Ascalonian ruins all around. There are many pillars throughout the central area of the room where you can jump around parts of this room to get to the other side. But a very interesting thing going on here are how there are ethereal wooden planks that connect most of the pillars to each other so you can walk along them. I'm not entirely sure if this was a design choice or if they were not fully implemented, and they seem to be a little broken graphically, but they are cool nonetheless. As you make your way from pillar to pillar into the other side of the room, you're at a dead end. If you look up, you can see what seems to be an entrance to another area, but I don't believe there's any way to get up there. For people wondering what exactly this is, it's pretty simple. As ArenaNet were designing and creating Guild Wars 2, they were experimenting with implementing jumping puzzles in various ways, like in dungeons, where they were experimenting with and testing this location as a jumping puzzle, but decided against having it in the dungeon. As such, it was scrapped. But this area is still available to explore for people who are interested in looking around. And as someone who absolutely loves jumping puzzles, I love this location and I wish I had explored it sooner. If you ever have a moment after completing an Ascalonian Catacombs run, I highly recommend that you come check out this area. Coming in at number 10 is this bandit cave in the Hrathi hinterlands. Honestly, shout out to all the bandit caves in the game. They all have great atmospheres and it's a nice RPG/exploration element in the game, but this one in particular is my favorite bandit cave in the game. It's hidden on the western side of Hrathi hinterlands near the ruins of Holy Dimitra. The only important part of this cave is that inside of it is a cabbage patch, but there are no map completion objectives directing you here, and it's a tiny bit out of the way from any other map completion objectives given that its entrance is in a little bit of a valley. There are a few bandits guarding the entrance and a door that you can open and close. Upon entering the hideout, you find the cabbage patch and also a very beautiful view with sunlight beaming into the cavern, a small waterfall leading into a creek, and also another door that you cannot access. As someone who really likes to immerse themselves into the world, I love wondering what is behind this door, and I also really enjoy locations like this in the game. Locations that aren't really important, but add a ton of flavor to the game. And in the number 9 spot, we have the inspiration behind this video. In the Assurance starting zone of Metrica province at the very start of the map, we have the giant lock. On the eastern side of the lock, we have waterfalls that bring water from further south into the lock. Many people know how cool this area is with the underground research base, the small jumping puzzle over the edge of the lock here, and the giant Assurance lab hidden nearby that is only accessible via Assurance gate. But what many people don't know is that there's actually a cave here. If you swim down into the lock right below this jumping area, you can actually swim into an underwater tunnel and come up into a cave. Located inside is a small inquest base with an event that has you fighting a crazy inquest researcher. I also learned through my Let's Play series that you come here in the Assurance personal story for one mission, a mission that I had never done until recently. And of course, the cave itself is beautiful, with sun beaming in, some plants, and some waterfalls. I had no idea this place existed. I had a friend who doesn't play video games try out Guild Wars 2, where she customized an Assurance character and then explored the world a little bit. In her short journey, she stumbled upon this place, and I was awestruck because she found a brand new location in this game that I had never seen in 10 years of playing. And honestly, this is one of my favorite parts about exploration in this game. There are so many cool and unique places, and after over 10 years of playing, I know I still haven't discovered everything. Coming in at number 8 is the Lion's Shadow Bed and Breakfast. This is a really cool location in Lion's Arch that has changed over the years. This bed and breakfast is owned by a Norn by the name of Innkeeper Ayla. In the original Lion's Arch, she owned a location in eastern Lion's Arch known as the Lion's Shadow Inn. This location was a pretty basic spot that was just like an ordinary tavern, but was a good option for people who enjoy role-playing in a tavern atmosphere. With the destruction and subsequent reconstruction of Lion's Arch, the inn was lost and Ayla was out of business. However, there was another building known as Yang Ison's estate. This was an important location for people who are members of the Order of Whispers for Chapter 6 of the personal story, where the quick summary is that the owner died and now the building is abandoned. With the reconstruction of Lion's Arch, innkeeper Ayla purchased the property that was once an estate and turned it into what we know now today as the Lion's Shadow Bed and Breakfast. And while some people watching might think that Ayla has reopened her business, and while that may be correct, they might be surprised to see that Ayla has changed her business plan a little bit, where the bed and breakfast is now a location of a nightclub and is used as a front for black market dealings. Anyone who comes up to the door of the bed and breakfast might learn that the door guard will not talk to you during the day, but if it is night, you will get a prompt to give the door guard a password to enter the establishment, and giving the correct password will grant you access to explore this area. In the number 7 spot is a little bit of a general answer, and that is all of the Order Whispers secret bases. Anyone who has played through Guild Wars 2, especially as a member of the Order Whispers, will have discovered all of the different outposts and hideaways the Order Whispers have around Terria. Most prominently is the outpost in Lion's Arch, as well as the Chantry of Secrets, but there are a lot more than that, and all of them are really cool. The Order Whispers is just a really good vibe for people who like spy and stealth stories and themes, and all of the different bases really reinforce that vibe. I want to highlight 2 that are super cool, and I would wager that most people don't know about them. The more well known of the 2 is the outpost located at Snowdrift Haven and Snowden Drifts. This haven and the entire area around it, especially this bridge, is really cool. But located underneath the haven with an entrance on the side of the mountain is a very small Order Whispers operation. Located inside is some supplies, some tables, and even a printing press. There's also a secret door that will take you into the valley below the haven, where you will often find the start of an event involving the Order of Whispers. The less well known of the 2 outposts is located further south in Lornar's Pass, located at Gutra's homestead. If you are a member of the Order of Whispers, and only if you are a member, you can examine the door and press an emblem to enter the building. You can then find an unlit sconce on the fireplace, which pulling will reveal a secret passage into this underground Order of Whispers base. This spot is just so cool, not only because the cave and outpost itself is interesting, but the way you get in is super fun. Additionally, this area serves as a nice place for members of the Order of Whispers who are in the area to hide out at, sell some supplies, and reinforce their armor before heading back out on an adventure. Coming in at number 6 is the Tears of Idlauco mini dungeon. This one is pretty well known, but it would pain me not to put it on the list because of how cool this place is. This is probably one of my favorite mini dungeons and one of my favorite maps in the game. To walk you through this mini dungeon, you first enter it by picking up a boulder and throwing it at this gong, which will open up the door to this location. You then have to run through a gauntlet of angry Hylic and a bunch of traps to eventually reach a really cool location where the primary puzzle is. In this room, you have to place the Tears of Idlauco on the various pressure plates on the floor in order to match it with the symbols on the giant statue head looking down upon the room. Upon making 4 successful matches, the final door will open and you have completed the mini dungeon. Not only is this a pretty fun puzzle, which is still decently fun after you figure it out for the first time, the entire area here is really pretty and unique. On top of that, the theme of this mini dungeon is super cool because it involves a Hylic who we don't see much love for in the game, and it is also a very mysterious location that we don't know too much about, and it might be a good foundation for a story in the future. Coming in at number 5 is a little bit of an interesting location because it is this sunken ship located in the Gilded Hollow Guild Hall. The guild halls, especially the 2 introduced with the Heart of Thorns expansions, are super cool areas for people who love to explore. You can spend a very long time in these maps and find a bunch of super cool locations. Honorary shout out to how far up you can climb in the Gilded Hollow and everything you can find up there. But this pirate ship is probably my favorite spot for me. It's in an area of the guild hall that most people don't tend to go to. There's nothing really around it except it is in the center of the guild hall, so people that do some casual exploring of the place oftentimes miss it, because a lot of people tend to just do a lap around the perimeter of the guild hall and call it good. The ship itself is cool, but also really interesting because it looks like a Lion's Arch flag is on the ship, and the ship made it all the way here to the heart of Meguma. If you go inside, there's a ton of gold and other cool decorations. Overall, just a nice small detail to a location that a lot of people don't explore. In the number 4 slot is an area where a couple achievements actually take you to, and that is this hidden statue of the god Abaddon in the Desolation. Located in the northeastern corner of the Desolation, you can access this area by using a jackal and jumping through a sand portal. You will be teleported to this pretty cool chamber, and at the center of the chamber is a giant statue of Abaddon, the fallen god of knowledge and water. There really isn't too much to say about this area, except it's beautiful and hidden away very well. I just like it a lot. It definitely helps that I love Abaddon and all the lore and story surrounding him a lot. The coolest part about this room is the Easter egg that is related to the achievements that I mentioned before. where you can slash kneel before the statue in order to get an achievement, and then you can slash dance before the statue to get another achievement, and also receive the Judgment of Abaddon. And in the number 3 slot is this area in the Lamprey Grottos and the Iron Marches. This is a really cool spot that is home to members of the Suit Warband alongside a bunch of tanks. The super cool thing going on here is that there's a mini game that you can do in order to unlock a special reward. You can repair a tank, and upon successfully repairing the tank, you become an honorary member of the Warband and unlock the Iron's Tailpipe Bandana. This is a special headpiece item which, in my opinion, is nothing too special but can be great if you're looking for a headpiece like this for your outfit. But it is so cool that there is this random area in the world where you can come and complete a random minigame to unlock a special skin that is only available by completing this random minigame in this random area. I love stuff like this so much, and I wish there was more of this going on in the game. Unlocking special rewards through the game, especially through exploration, is one of my favorite things in games. And this area itself is pretty cool. I actually had no idea this existed until several years after the game released, where when I found out about it, I rushed here to complete the minigame and get my special skin. Coming in at number 2 is the Hidden Strawberry Patch in Diessa Plateau. This is probably one of the most beautiful spots in the entire game and definitely one of my favorite locations. In the town of Nolan, you can find a small jumping puzzle near the vista here. By working your way up to an exposed pipe, you can run through the pipe and find a large clearing with waterfalls pouring into the area and a large strawberry field in the center. The strawberries, beyond being beautiful, do serve a purpose as you can harvest them and use them in crafting. This entire area here is just gorgeous, and it is hidden away in a very cool way where most people passing by miss this area. This spot is extra special for me because my fiance and I like to come here to take screenshots of our characters together. I mean, the spot as a whole is kinda romantic with all of the candles, the light rays, and everything else. I even featured the spot in the video that we made together. It was also fun to bring her here for the first time because she was so confused on where we were going and then was in awe about how beautiful this area is. A reaction similar to my first time seeing this place all those years ago. And now for the number 1 spot. This might be the most iconic hidden location in the entire game, which seems kind of counterintuitive. A hidden spot is not supposed to be super well known, but I thought because of how important this area is for the Guild Wars 2 community and how this might be my favorite hidden location in the game, I had to add it to this list. And that spot is, of course, this little balcony at the Starbauer Nursery. Okay, I'm just joking. It's the little cave off of Garden Route Tunnel. Okay, this might have just been me taking an opportunity to point out how many cool little spots there are in the Grove. The actual number 1 spot is the hidden cave located in the bottom level of the Grove. I'm willing to bet that most people who think about hidden areas in Guild Wars 2 think about this location. And if you have never seen this spot before, I am so happy that you get to experience it for the first time here in this video. This spot is just beautiful. Honestly, it is one of my favorite spots in the entire game. Many people, including myself, like to come here to take screenshots of their character. I've even included it in videos on my channel before. This is also a really cool spot to just hang out in. Back in the day, this is one of the primary spots that my guild came to have guild meetings. I have so many memories of this place, and it is just so iconic. Almost everyone absolutely loves this spot, and this area holds a special place in many people's hearts. And I think this area just really encapsulates the idea of hidden locations in Guild Wars 2. There are a lot of really cool areas and secrets hidden around the world of Tyria. Many are important for various achievements or unlocking special items, like some that have been shown on this list, but some are there just for the purpose of exploration. A special reward for those who take their time to explore every corner of the world. A beautiful location for those who steer away from the selected path of map completion and ask themselves, I wonder what's in this random pond in the edge of the Grove. And the number 10 spot is Windy Cave Treasure. This is a mini dungeon located in Lornar's Pass that is right off the main road that most players should recognize. This place has a point of interest that you need to get for map completion, and is also a location that members of the Durman Priory come to during the personal story. It is an ancient dwarven ruin that is the tomb of the stone summit dwarf Dagnar Stonepate that is built into the mountain, and I just really like the vibes of this place. It is kind of a hidden area built into the mountain in one part of Lornar's Pass. It feels like a spelunking mission where you have to find your way through this cave and the ruins built inside of it. The puzzle itself is pretty straightforward. For the most part, it is just a few jumps you need to do in order to reach the end. The cave itself is aptly named, with it being called a Windy Cave, where you have to be careful of being pushed off by the wind, so you have to hide behind cover and wait for the gusts to calm down a bit. Except, when you are doing this puzzle on the open road, the wind doesn't actually knock you down. It only does this in the story mission, which is a bit disappointing. As you fight past the imps and oozes and navigate a tiny maze, you can get to the end and open the chest. And the number 9 spot is Bad Neighborhood. This is a very straightforward and basic mini dungeon, and I just love it because of that. It is located in Beggar's Burrow, which is just east of the village of Shaymore. To enter this place, you have to go across Lake Delavan and fight a group of bandits protecting this door. You can then open the door to find yourself in a massive cave, where this cave plays a part in the human personal story during chapter 1, where you're investigating the bandits, and you can fight your way through this entire cave to eventually reach a chest to open and get your achievement. The cave is pretty cool with some water, a hole in the ceiling that is bringing light into the cave, this cool tree on the edge of the cave, this waterfall, and just a bunch of bandit stuff around the cave. There's also a back exit to this place that you can leave through to get out to Shaymore, where there is a little tunnel that leads to the graveyard here. But I just want to point out that this back tunnel is also pretty cool because it has a waterfall coming into it that leads to this tiny river that leads to the waterfall we saw earlier, where there is a grate covering the opening that lets you see into the cave and get a sneak peek of what's inside if you discover the cave from this entrance, leading you to wanting to find the other entrance. And I think the aspect of this mini dungeon that I like so much is just how standard it is. Every fantasy world that has bandits in it should have a hidden cave full of bandits that you can fight through for a special reward. And the number 8 spot is Don't Touch the Shiny. This is another mini dungeon that is in a cave, but this time located in the Caledon Forest. Just north of the Mabon Market is the Ruins of the Unseen that used to be the Temple of the Unseen in the original Guild Wars, but it is now all dilapidated and overran with script. You can find a cave entrance in the northeastern-ish part of this area that leads to a large cave that houses a ton of script as well as a bunch of their stolen treasures. You have a lot of metal and various pieces of Asuran technology all around this cave, but one very interesting thing is this electrical orb that a lot of script are hiding around. You can pick up the orb and you will get a special ability called Throw Orb, which will do exactly as it says, throw the orb. But if you bring it to the special door, you can throw the orb at the door to break it, opening up a new area you can go into. All around the room are a ton of Asuran golems by the name of Eye of the Unseen, and in the far corner is a splendid chest and a sacred script shiny, where you can open the chest to get some loot. But if you want the achievement, you will have to break the shiny. And when you do that, all the golems will awaken and charge at you while a bunch of lasers will begin shooting at you. Where if you are under-equipped or under-prepared, you will likely die to them and will have to waypoint out. I'm not entirely sure what the story going on here is, and it might be a good subject for a future video, but it's still a cool mini dungeon. And the number 7 spot is Valdhurt's Crypt. This is a pretty big mini dungeon that was introduced in the End of Dragons expansion that is kind of unpopular, but I like it quite a bit. We'll get into why it's unpopular in a moment, but this mini dungeon is located in the Ekovod Wilds and has a larger overarching story going on and a ton of different puzzles you need to complete. The general story is that this crypt is where the Dredge and remaining Kurziks made their last stand against the Ministry of Purity during the events between Guild Wars 2 and the original Guild Wars, where now they are all ghosts. And as you experience the story, you have to complete multiple puzzles. Some are to just fight a bunch of enemies, one is to pull levers to turn all the tiles blue, one is to match specific weapons with the correct statues depending on what type of weapon it is, and there are a bunch of other rooms as well. Where overall, I just like this location because of how cool it is, the story going on, and the variety of the puzzles going on. But there are a couple reasons people don't like this place. One, which is a very minor reason that only some people don't like, is how you have to complete an achievement in order to gain access to this location, which I personally think is pretty cool. But the bigger reason that people don't like it is because it bugs a lot, which makes a mini dungeon impossible to complete at times, which can be frustrated when this place is needed for completing a daily, but when you are able to come through this place when it's not bugged, it is a lot of fun and is one of my fondest memories of End of Dragons. In the number 6 spot is Not All Who Wander Are Lost. This is a fantastic mini dungeon located in Lake Doric that I have a lot of fond memories of. This is basically a large area that is closed off, and you have to gain access to it by doing a very specific mechanic, where once it is nighttime, you can go to the southern part of New Loamhurst and find a forge that has blue fire. You can find a nearby stick and light it on fire with the forge to gain an ethereal torch. You can then find a priestess of Melandru south of New Loamhurst who only spawns at night and talk to her to escort her to the entrance of the mini dungeon. As you escort her, you have to find 6 different stories along the path and light them before the priestess reaches each one, where once the priestess makes it to the entrance, it will be opened and you can explore this area. Where this area is beautiful and is a fun hidden spot in the game. There are some ancient ruins you can jump around on, some awesome trees, and it's just an all-around cool area. You can make some jumps up to a chest and open the chest to get your achievement and some loot. There's some unbound magic all around this place, and it's just a cool place to run around in. I have some special memories with this mini dungeon because I remember trying to unlock this place when the patch originally released, where myself and a bunch of other people were experimenting with various things until we figured out how to escort the priestess, and it was a very special moment to be able to see this area for the first time. In the number 5 spot is the Spirit Vestibule. This is a very interesting mini dungeon located in the open air in Xindaizhen in Saitung province. This is the first of the mini dungeons from Ender Dragons that most players will interact with, and it is pretty fun. Basically, the entire area around Xindaizhen is a large maze surrounded by fog and encroaching darkness. You have to navigate through the maze to collect specific colored buffs from various totems that you will need to fight 3 different bosses around the maze. As you go through the darkness, you will begin to take more and more damage and will have to seek the shelter of various lanterns scattered around the maze. Each of the 3 bosses are located in different parts of the maze and do different mechanics that you will have to overcome in order to defeat them, but they are all pretty straightforward. But as you navigate through the maze, collect all the buffs from the totems, and then kill all 3 of the bosses, a beacon of white light will appear that will teleport you into a hidden chamber inside of the Xindaizhen temple where you can get your rewards. This is just a mini dungeon that I do every now and then with my fiance or other people, and it is just a lot of fun. I really like the vibes of this place with it being a twisted labyrinth. While you don't necessarily have to work with other people, coming in with a friend or 2 is super helpful, and it makes for a fun experience. And the number 4 spot is Vexa's Lab. This is a pretty popular mini dungeon located in Fireheart Rise that has multiple different challenges you must overcome. You can make your way up a mountain or volcano or whatever that has a lava flow and carefully jump across some Asuran platforms that are blinking on and off. You can go through an Asura gate that will take you to a whole other corner of the map that is inside of the mini dungeon. The first room is pretty simple, where you just have to fight some Elder Dragon test subjects, but after that room is a really cool area with a ton of different Asura gates. You have to find the right way through the room, where some Asura gates will take you to where you need to go, and some may teleport you to the roof where you will fall to your death. If you make it through the Asura gates, you then have a long room that has more of those Asura platforms where some are blinking on and off. There are also a ton of golem assistants that you have to avoid, or they will push you off. And once you get through that room, there's one final room where you fight Vexa and her giant golem. This is a really awesome room with a bunch of those Asuran platforms that are above water. If you fall into the water, you will have to deal with some ice sharks and swim back up to the top. For a lot of people nowadays, this is a really quick and easy boss fight that you just DPS down quickly, but if you are weaker or decide to slow down for a moment, it is actually a really fun fight where Vexa and her golem teleport around, break platforms, and do other fun things. I just really like the environment of this entire puzzle, especially the portal room and final room, and I love all the different puzzles you have to do here. In the number 3 spot is Norin's Safe Room. This is another mini dungeon from Lake Doric, and this one alongside the next 2 are above and beyond my 3 favorite mini dungeons in all of Guild Wars 2. They are kind of in a tier of their own for me, but you can find Norin's Safe Room in the Harvest Cascades area of Lake Doric, up by Norin's Homestead. I really like this area of the map and all of Lake Doric as well, but Norin's Homestead is this cool area and you can go inside of the homestead and go down the stairs to find a bunch of supplies and the entrance to this mini dungeon. It is a decently long one with a wide variety of different puzzles you have to go through. You have to avoid traps, defeat cave spiders, and work your way through the entire puzzle. You can get some key oil that you can use on the key you get from completing the task at Norin's Homestead every day that you can then use on the final chest in this area. There's a little jumping puzzle area that you have to navigate through. I love all the log traps that are here, and just overall, I really enjoy this entire puzzle. It's decently long so you don't feel like you are in and out, but it's short enough that it doesn't feel like a burden if you want to do it every day for the rewards. I love this environment, the different jumping areas, and the wide variety of different traps you have to avoid, and overall it is just one of my favorite mini dungeons in the entire game. In the number 2 spot is Derelict Delve. For this one, we are going over to the Path of Fire expansion and heading to my favorite map in that expansion, the Desert Highlands. Up in the snowy mountains in the northwestern corner of that map where the Shiver Peaks is blending into the Crystal Desert, you can find massive ancient dwarven ruins. All around these ruins are a ton of Derman Priory scholars investigating what this place was, where you yourself can join in on the investigation and unlock a ton of secrets. This entire area is massive with a lot of different rooms to explore. There are a lot of nooks and crannies that you can take a look at, but I'll just give a basic summary. The objective of the mini dungeon is to work your way through a variety of rooms where you need to find runes in each room. You have to deal with the specific obstacles found in each room to navigate around it and get all of the runes. Where with the runes, you can unlock more doors to get more runes to be able to eventually get through every room. There are 4 total rooms, one that is cold and icy, one that is lava covered, one that has cobwebs and spiders everywhere, and then a final room that is an incredibly mysterious and foreboding chamber where you drop down deep into the room and into some sort of magical and ethereal waterlogged room where you can get the final chest. Exploring this area when Path of Fire came out is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, memories from that expansion. You can get some super cool weapon skins from this as well that are all Dwarven themed, and I just highly recommend that anyone who has not done this yet comes here and completes this mini dungeon. But now for the number 1 spot, for my favorite mini dungeon in the entire game, and it's kind of a weird one because the reason it's above the last 2 is because of how special it is to me, and it's the Tears of Idlauco. This is another mini dungeon in Caledon Forest, located in the northwestern corner of the map in Witchmire Swamp. It takes place in an area that is important to the Hylic, and there is a large Hylic village on the outskirts as well as at the start of this mini dungeon. You have to go through the starting Hylic village and find a gong with a bunch of boulders sitting nearby. You can pick up a boulder, aim at the gong, and hit it with the boulder in order to open the first gate. You then have to fight your way through or run past a bunch of strong Hylic and navigate past a few traps to enter the main room of this puzzle, where there is a large clearing in this cave with a bunch of items called the Tear of Idlauco. There is a massive stone head looking down into the room and 9 different pressure plates set up in a 3x3 pattern. You have to take the tears and set them on the pressure plates to match the pattern that is appearing on the stone head's cheeks. Once you do one, a torch will light up and you can do the second. As you do the second, another torch will light up and the patterns are changed to 2 new ones, where once you do the next 2, a total of 4 torches will be lit and the final door will be opened. You can go through the door and find the chest that houses your reward. I just absolutely love this entire area. I think it is so cool, and this puzzle is also incredible. I have a very fond memory coming through here for the first time and figuring out the puzzle, where a lot of people seem to struggle with this puzzle because it's not immediately obvious that you need to look up to see the patterns you need to make on the cheeks of the stone head. But I have some fond memories of bringing friends through here to test them and to also do this for a lot of people whenever it was one of the daily achievements. But like I said, this place has always just been a special spot for me that I loved more than other places. It even made its way on another top 10 list on my channel, where I haven't talked about this much on my channel yet, but I've been uploading YouTube videos since 2013, where most of my older videos are gone, and I really started uploading a lot again in 2022, but on my old channel, way back in the day, I had a series that was related to this place, and alongside that, I have a project planned for the future that is related to this place. And I'm going to keep both of those things a secret for now, because the newer project is probably years away. But while it may not be the best or coolest puzzle in the game, it is definitely a very cool one, and it is just my personal favorite in the entire game. In the number 10 spot is the Lion's Arch Aerodrome. I wanted to start off with something pretty basic and small to dip our toes into this video before we get to some crazier things. The Aerodrome is the main hub for raiders in Guild Wars 2, where this area houses raid vendors, portals to each raid, a special training area, many different amenities, and more. But one key part about this area that most people should know about is the giant raid portal that makes up the eye of the stingray shaped building. This area overlooks the rest of Lion's Arch, and you can look up at it from inside, where just like every single map break on this list, you can break out by simply walking out, or using your sky skill to climb up and go through a specific hole in the wall, where this hole is pretty big and easy to break out of, where because of how small the aerodrome is, there isn't too much you can see out here. I particularly like how this demonstrates how each map is its own unique instance, because lore-wise, climbing through this hole would bring you into Lion's Arch and Fort Mariner, but because maps are separate, you are thrown straight into the void, and the area around here is a good example of how map breakouts look. You got a basic water level, you got some really cool geometric cliffs, you got some areas you may die in, you got some random spots out in the water, and so on. All in all, this is a pretty small and basic area, but still one that I like a lot. In the number 9 spot is Guyala Delve. This is a newer map break that I didn't learn about until recently, and is one that I like quite a bit. This map break is unique to this list because you climb up out of it, but you actually have to use a roller beetle to sneak your way out of the borders, where when you get up here, it is a pretty cool area. There's quite a bit to explore up here, but I'll just show the gist of it, where overall, there's one key element of this that I love so much. It looks like the Jade Sea. We have 2 maps in Guild Wars 2 that are located in the Jade Sea, Dragon's End and Guyala Delve, where both maps incorporate the elements of the Jade Sea into them. When we look at Guyala Delve, you have hints towards the sprawling Jade Sea, but for the most part you are underground, and in Dragon's End, only the bottom half of the map has you running along the sea, and it's mostly only where part of the meta takes place. but I do love the southeastern point of interest of the Jade Expanse that just shows you the sea going off in the distance, and that jade going off in the distance is basically what we see here with this map break, but broken up a little bit. And I do hope we get a map in the future that is a lot like this, just the Jade Sea with different islands and structures and whatnot built on top of it. In the number 8 spot is the Polymach Arena. This is an area that I showcased in my top 10 secrets video where I talked about how cool of an area this is, but you have to break out of the map to get there. But I mentioned that I didn't think there was any way to get back there anymore and that the map breaks were fixed. But I got multiple comments that I was wrong. So it took me a long time to figure out how to get in here, which led to me learning a new movement tech in Guild Wars 2, but I got here, and it's pretty cool. For people who don't know, Polymach was a mini game from the original Guild Wars where you could fight different NPCs with different creature chess pieces. Each creature had different skills, you took turns, and so on. It's Guild Wars' take on a popular genre, but with the development and release of Guild Wars 2, there were some hints for how Polymach would be added into the game, such as with this giant area here in Radisum. But unfortunately, it never made it. But many players hope that one day you will be able to play it, where the main location that you would be coming to for this would probably be here, and it's a pretty fleshed out area with many different platforms and rooms that you can explore, but be careful as you do explore this area because you may end up in jail. In the number 7 spot is Dry Top. This is a pretty popular map that a lot of players can break out of. This is also an area that gets shared a lot on social media. Dry Top itself is a pretty small map, but the total amount of area that this map actually takes up is pretty big, where if you break out of the map, there's a lot you can explore. I honestly love the environments that exist outside of maps, not because of some sort of lore or aesthetical point of view, because it's kind of the opposite of that, but just an insight into game design and map design that is present in every map you can explore. There are so many different cool types of things all around this area that you can look at. I especially like how you can see into the cavern of the shining lights. But the most popular part about this map break is something that is present in many different maps, and it's this guy. Whenever you break out of a map, you may find this fella somewhere around most maps. And if you're confused about what exactly this blue monstrosity is, it's for developers to scale things in the map properly. Where to my general basic non-developer brain, this is a cut and standard model that has very specific dimensions, where everything in the map is scaled in comparison to this model. This basically helps developers make sure that the terrain and decorations and maps are scaled properly in comparison to the rest of the game. Otherwise, you could end up having a map that has dimensions that are too small or too big for player models. In the number 6 spot is the Mad King's Clock Tower. This is a really fun map breakout for me because it is located in a jumping puzzle, and you have to do a jumping puzzle in order to get out. The clock tower is one of the most iconic parts of the Shadow of the Mad King Festival. When you enter this place, you're in a closed off area and can see a bridge leading to the tower. Every time the round starts, everyone in that area gets teleported to the tower and they have to make their way up quickly without falling. But there are a series of jumps you can make in this area to climb out and over the front gate, where I just love this tiny jumping puzzle you can do because I just love jumping puzzles and it feels like a jumping puzzle inception. But as you climb out, you can explore all around this area, where there's quite a lot you can explore. You can see a lot of different cogs and another version of the tower. You can swim around a lot and explore everything. And as long as you are out in this area, you won't get teleported up to the tower, so you can spend as much time as you want just exploring this area without fear of being teleported away, at least until the instance timer is up. I have also seen people make it to the bridge that leads to the tower, which is how I originally learned about this breakout because I saw people on the bridge, but I haven't made it there yet. In the number 5 spot is Bloodstone Fen. This is a very special map breakout for me because this is the first one that I ever did. Where back when this map originally released, I met an individual who was trying to explore the outer reaches of this area. Where above where the entrance to the Bastion of the Penitent is located today, you can find a hole in the wall. Back in the day, you had to do some advanced gliding techniques to get in there, but now it's very easy with mounts. Whereas you get out here, there's a lot you can explore. Bloodstone Fen is a very interesting zone because it is super tiny, but super vertical at the same time, where this map breakout really highlights those facts. But a really cool part about this is how the opening area is super fleshed out. There seems to have been a lot of design put into this place, and there are even updrafts. It really makes me wonder what this area was going to be for back when this map was being developed, or at some point it was cut and never made it to the live game. A reality with a lot of different places around Tyria. But as you leave the opening area, you can find the rest of the map and see many different cool sites all around you. I think this map breakout is just super cool, and I feel a lot of nostalgia whenever I run through this area because of how this was the first breakout I ever explored. In the number 4 spot is the Domain of Istan. This is the last area on this list that I didn't know about until recently, and it is super cool. A smaller part of the map that is pretty important for the story is the ancient rural docks point of interest. This is the location that you come to in order to get to Farinur, the first city. In the story, you know that the Order of the Sunspears have a secret tunnel that they use to get outside of the domain of Istan and into the rest of Istan, including the first city. Where in the story, you go to the entrance of the tunnel, and then you enter the story mission, and then you arrive at Farinur. But just like what we talked about on Bloodstone Finn, let's go over some cut content. Because on the other side of this gate is a massive tunnel system that is pretty fleshed out and likely would have served as a story mission into Farinur, but was likely cut for pacing reasons. But there is just a lot of stuff down here, and this is a pretty long tunnel. There are several cool areas, and you eventually reach the end of the tunnel where there is a big room with a bunch of serpent statues. And I just love this area and imagining what it would have been like if we had gotten this story mission implemented into the game. I also like this waterfall here that is going through the ground and into the tunnel because it shows you a bit of how the map is designed. But all in all, this is just a great area. In the number 3 spot is Dragon Stand. We have talked a lot about cut content in this video, but let's go over one of the biggest pieces of cut content in the game. Dragon Stand is a map that has some exploration elements in it, but for the most part, it is dominated by the massive meta that takes place across the map. 3 giant lanes that the Pact are pushing down towards the Heart of Thorns in order to defeat the Mouth of Mordremoth. Each lane has a variety of events and stories taking place where you can learn more about various characters. But if you've ever looked at the map, it looks a little funky where it looks a little cut off on the northern and western end of it. And that is because there was originally going to be a 4th lane in this map, where some people speculate that this lane would have focused on the Nightmare Court and help provide more information about Duchess Chrysanthia, who may be the new leader of the Nightmare Court in place of Falin. Whereas you explore this area around here, there's quite a bit of cool stuff. You can see the general structure that the lane would have taken its form in, but it's obviously incomplete. There's a lot of rivers and waterfalls and whatnot. You can go down the entire length all the way to the dragon's domain. There are a lot of different nooks and crannies all around this area. You can explore some exalted structures, and there's just so many cool different areas. I really love this map breakout because of how we are exploring what would have been a 4th lane. Whether or not that 4th lane would have been good to have in practice is debatable, and I think most people agree that the 3 lanes for this map is a great number. But as someone who wants to learn more about the new form of the Nightmare Court, I think it would have been great to learn more about them had this lane focused on Chrysanthia and whatnot. In the number 2 spot is the Silver Waste. This is an absolutely massive map break, and there are just so many different areas that we can explore. When we look at the map of the Silver Waste, it is pretty big. There are a lot of different areas, events, and so on that you can explore across the map. But a really special part about the Silver Waste is how it is 2 maps in one, because the largest jumping puzzle, and my favorite jumping puzzle in the game, is Retrospective Runaround. This jumping puzzle spans the entire length of the zone, and is basically an entire zone in and of itself. So basically, Silver Waste is 2 entire zones combined into one, but we can take it even further and look at an entire other layer of this zone and explore the Silver Waste broken out of the map. So basically, the Silver Waste is 3 massive zones layered on top of each other. And truly, there is a lot to explore here. You have a variety of fun different details like this massive flat area, these sand dunes, and some great lookouts. You can go behind the map portal to the Brisbane Wildlands and just stand in a fun area, but be careful of getting teleported out. You can find this massive golden area on the edge of the sealed cavern that is beautiful. And you can even go inside of the sealed cavern and explore it, as well as the dark cave system that leads into this place. For people who don't know or don't remember, this is an area that you can only come to at the end of Living World Season 2, but you can explore it here as well, which is nice. And there are just so many different areas all around this place that you can explore, and it truly is a fantastic experience. But now for the number 1 spot, for my favorite map breakout in the entire game, and it has to go to the Tangle Depths. I love this area so much. Not only is there a lot you can explore here, and I mean a lot, but there are several different secrets all around this area that I love a lot. For when you look at all the different places, like I said, there's a lot. You can find the tunnel that leads to Dragon Stand, you can find awesome flat areas near Teku Nuhawk, you can find massive stretches of flat areas that are incredibly fun to ride around on with your roller beetle, and I think this map is a great example of water levels in Guild Wars 2, where every map we have explored thus far has this, but let's talk about it a bit more really quickly. Where up until the Secrets of the Obscure expansion, each map has had a singular water level, where all the water in a map is built at the same height and the entire map is built on top of it, and this water level spans the entire map. So when you break out of a map, you can explore all of it. Where with skimmers and skiffs now being in the game, it's quite a bit of fun to do that. But you can explore the entire water level around here, reaching the corners of the map, But another fun thing about Tango Depths is how the water level comes right up to where the ley line confluence is. So if you're riding around on a skiff here, your skiff will pop out of the ground and make it look like you are driving around on the ground. And because players can hop into skiffs, you can actually drag people through the ground and out of the map boundary as well. But I think my all-time favorite part about the outer boundaries of Tango Depths is what we can find in one of these massive pits, where there are a variety of different pits around here that you can drop down into for a long time. Like, a long time. They are super deep. And there is one massive pit that you can explore and even find some Asuran architecture in. But my favorite part about this entire map break is this. Outside of Tango Depths, in the middle of nowhere, is this flame turret. Sitting here, floating in the air, blasting away at nothing. It does nothing but fire. You can get hit by it, you can damage it, but it can't be destroyed. I don't know why this is here, but I am so happy that it is. It's so fun. But when you combine all the elements together, the turret, the skiff illusion, all the other cool intricacies, and all the various areas that you can explore, Tango Depths is definitely my favorite map break in the entire game. Coming in at number 10, I have the Metrica Province Secret Bunny Cave. This is a super fun location that is kind of just hidden in plain sight. Located pretty close to the starting area of the Asura, you can find a path that leads to a cave. Along the path are several warning markers that read "Warning, danger ahead, turn back now." As you come up to each one, you are given a lot of time to turn around and run away from the danger that lies ahead of you, but if you decide you want to risk your life, you can continue walking forwards and find this cave. And inside of it is an Asura named Snriff and a bunch of her rabbits, which this itself is super fun, a secret cave that is off the beaten path that has an Asura with a bunch of rabbits. The entire place gets a little bit more fun when you decide to talk to this Asuran, where there are a ton of different dialogue options that you can go through that are fun to read. But to spoil this a little bit, the general gist of what is going on is that this Asura just really loves rabbits. She's not experimenting on them, she just likes having them around and wants to take care of them and feed them. Other Asura would think this is dumb, so she plays it off like she's experimenting on them. And she has all of the warning signs to try to prevent people from seeing what is going on in this cave, which actually is pretty sad but also a bit heartwarming. I appreciate that these rabbits are being taken care of, especially with what some Asura, like the Inquest, do to rabbits. In the number 9 spot, we have the Night Lights. This is a fun achievement that has you exploring a super cool part of the Desert Highlands. For people who have unlocked the Jackal Mount from the Path of Fire expansion and have also upgraded it, they can make their way through a bunch of sand portals and a floating path and eventually reach this temple area. Located here are some chests you can open, as well as a Mastery site that you can commune with. This area is beautiful and also serves as a great spot to start griffin riding from and basically reach any other point in the map. But the super fun part about this location is how this area changes depending on what time of day it is, where we were just exploring it during the day, but if you decide to come here during night, you can find a beautiful image being shown in the sky near this temple. It's just a great view, and coming up here to look at them will give you an achievement. This is one of those locations which is just iconic, where a lot of people know about it, and a ton of people who discover the spot for the first time get so excited by seeing these lights that they will share it with other people. Coming in at number 8 are the bears attacking these beehives. This is a super fun secret located in Queensdale, the human starting zone. In the southwestern corner of the map, you have the township of Claypool, the beautiful Clayant Falls, and a bunch of other cool spots. But one of my favorites are these beehives right here, where there's actually an event where these different beehives will be attacked by hungry bears and you have to fend them off. Or if you fail, Gideon will fix up the beehives so this family can continue on with their jobs. This event is not super well known because it's a random event that is not connected to anything else in the game, only happens every now and then, and is in the middle of nowhere, so oftentimes people will only pass by this area while they are quickly heading to the nearby Bandit Champion. But this event is actually one of the first events I ever saw in Guild Wars 2, where before the game released in 2012, I watched the Yogg's cast playing through the game, and that is actually how I first learned about Guild Wars 2, where one of the things they were doing is wandering through this part of Queensdale and suddenly being beset by a bunch of hungry bears. In the number 7 spot, we have this ship off the coast from Amnoon, where straight off the bat, there's no reason to come to this ship except to explore, so the average player will have never been on it. And to take a quick moment, the ship is pretty cool. It's got a nice design, I like all the plants on it, the inside is very well decorated and looks like somewhere I would want to hang out. You got a lot of beds, carpets, pillows, and even a kitchen where you can go get some food. I imagine that this ship is some sort of luxury retreat for the citizens of Amnoon to go stay on the ocean for a day or two and relax. But this ship itself is not the secret that I want to talk about. I mean, it's kind of just sitting here. I'm sure everyone has seen it. But the secret part about this ship is all the stuff that is hidden in the top part, where you have 3 cats that have pinned a toucan in the corner and are swinging at it while the toucan is trying to evade them, and then you got a kid swinging back and forth from the roof of the ship. This may look completely random, but but the swinging kid is actually a mark of a former ArenaNet employee who used to work on several maps of the game, including the Crystal Oasis. It is kind of like a signature or a "I worked on this," where you can actually find a bunch of swinging kids all around the world where the dev has worked on, and this is only one of them. As far as the cats and toucan go, I believe this developer loves cats and had a big part in the Catmander tag being introduced to the game, and maybe they hate toucans? I'm not sure about that one. In the number 6 spot, we have the Missing Dragon Stand Lane. This is cut content that is partially completed and can be found in the map of Dragon Stand, and this also requires you to break out of the map of Dragon Stand for you to find, where I actually did not showcase a spot in my map breakout video, but in Dragon Stand, the main meta requires the entire map to split up into 3 different groups and march towards the Blighting Towers, where each lane then kills a commander within each Blighting Tower, and then the 3 lanes come together to fight the Mouth of Mordramoth. But did you know that there was going to be a 4th lane? If you look at the map of Dragon Stand, it looks pretty funky, like a part of it was removed, and if you find your way over to this area of the world, you can see some early work on what they were doing in this part of the map, where instead of the map splitting up into 3 groups to march down 3 lanes and fight 3 Mordrim commanders, there's going to be a 4th lane that people would have to help as well, where then all 4 lanes would meet up at the Mouth of Mordramoth to fight the final boss together. I assume this lane was removed to make the map a little bit simpler, as well as with how there was a development crunch at the end of Heart of Thorn's development, and some stuff got cut from the game. Some people speculate that this area might have involved the new Duchess of the Nightmare Court, and we would have learned a bit more about her, but of course, most of the storyline got cut out of the expansion as well. In the number 5 spot, we have the Ebonhawk chickens, and this is a super popular Easter egg. In the city of Ebonhawk, we have the last major stronghold of humanity in Ascalon, and every stronghold needs some farms, where in the southwestern corner of the stronghold, you have the farm where you can find Wade Samuelson hanging out at. There are a bunch of different cows, pigs, and chickens, as well as a bunch of crops that the farmers are growing. But a very interesting difference between the chickens and the other animals is that the chickens are vulnerable to being attacked by other players, and if someone decided to attack them, well, this happens. This is a pretty obvious reference to Zelda, where in Ocarina of Time, if you decide to attack the chickens in a village, they go ballistic on you, swarm you, and start killing you. Where you now see this Easter egg in many other games, and this is where you can find it in Guild Wars 2. In the number 4 spot, we have the Martyr's Tomb secret event. In the Hrathi hinterlands, there are the ruins of Holy Demetra. This location has seen a lot of conflict over the years, but the most notable thing about this place is how it holds the tomb of Saul Delesiel, the founder of the White Mantle. The White Mantle are the religious fanatics who played a big part in the original Guild Wars as they worked for their unseen gods, the Mersat, where the Mersat used Saul Delesiel as a puppet in order to gain control of the White Mantle in Kryda, where when they were done with him, they kidnapped him and dragged him north out of Kryda. But they pretended like Saul Delesiel had died a martyr in the war between the Char and Kryda, giving the people of Kryda someone to feel pride in, while also preventing Saul from meddling in the Mersat's plans. In order for Saul to have died and become a martyr, they had to make a tomb, which is this one here. A White Mantle confessor by the name of Tinad the Faithful was put in place as the defender of Saul's tomb, but he had failed, where he is now a ghost and all the other ghosts around here have become enraged, where you can actually explore this place and defeat the ghost of Tinad the Faithful and calm the spirits. And in order to start this event, you actually have to interact with the world, where in a side room you can find a shattered statue of Dwayna. Kneeling before it will summon the emissary of Dwayna, where after talking to her and learning Tinad's name, you can quickly go to the open coffin in the main room and summon Tinad, where then you can fight him. This is just super cool, that there's a hidden event where you need to use an emote in order to spawn an NPC that will let you summon a boss for you to fight. I love secrets like this in games. In the number 3 spot, we have the Polymach Arena. Now this is a bit of a special one. For people who don't know what Polymach is, it's kind of the original Guild Wars take on Pokemon, where there are different Polymach pieces that resemble different creatures around the world of Tyria, and each piece has some different abilities, where you can then use your pieces to fight your opponents. It's a pretty fun minigame, but I personally have not spent a lot of time interacting with it yet. But another cool thing is that there are actually 3 different arenas that you will fight in depending on what region of the world you are fighting somebody in. One in the Tarnished Coast, one in the Far Shivered Peaks, and one in the Char Homelands. And with the development and release of Guild Wars 2, adding Polymach to the game was on the table, where you can find it referenced around the world, like how there are 2 minis fighting an Old Lion's Arch. But the bigger reference is the Polymach arenas located in Radasum, where connected to it is an Surrogate that is currently under construction in the Polymach atrium underneath the College of Statics. And with the gate being under construction, you cannot use it to get over to the arenas, but that doesn't mean you can't get there by other means, where with your mountain glider, you can make your way towards the arena and land on some spots that will allow you to look around this area from a distance. Unfortunately, there's an invisible wall that will prevent you from going any further. Back in the day, you could bug your way into this place and I had a ton of fun running around here, but unfortunately, it looks like ArenaNet fixed it and I haven't found another way to get over here. But I'll share Noxie's video about this place in the description if you want to check it out in more detail. Coming in at number 2 is another spot in Radisum, and that is the Radisum Prison. If you were trying to get over to the Polymock Arena and failed in getting there, you probably learned about this secret. The main security force of the Asuras in Radisum are known as the Peacemakers, and far below the College of Dynamics, you can find their headquarters, which includes a prison. There are a bunch of fun things down here like a cat you can get in your home instance, as well as several NPCs you can talk to. But what some people may not know is that you can actually end up in prison. Or if you try to escape Radisum and get close to the surface of the world here, you will be teleported up to prison. This can actually be kind of tricky to do if you don't have a mount or a glider, but you basically just need to find an edge around Radisum and jump off of it, avoiding any bumps or outcroppings and sliding your way down and towards the land. Should you successfully get there without dying, you will be teleported to an empty prison cell and be locked in confinement. But you can still waypoint or teleport out, of course. This is just a super fun place in Radisum. I remember when Guild Wars 2 originally released, people would talk about this spot all the time. A lot of people like to hang out in this place, and I have a lot of good memories just chatting with people here. And now for the number 1 spot, for my favorite secret in all Guild Wars 2, and it has to go to the hidden turkeys and the Ascalonian catacombs. This is another random thing that is just hidden away in the first dungeon of Guild Wars 2. The Ascalonian catacombs, as I recently covered on my channel, are a bunch of winding tunnels and rooms located underneath the kingdom of Ascalon, which now in Guild Wars 2 houses a lot of ghosts and gravelings. In the explorable mode version of the dungeon, you can choose 1 of 3 paths that will take you through different areas of the dungeon. Should you select path 1, you will follow Hodgins as he recovers different human relics in order to defeat the final boss of the path. After you destroy a bunch of different graveling barrels, Hodgins will open up a secret room that you can climb up in and find a special scepter at the top of it, where upon getting the scepter, you can continue on with the dungeon. But if you take some time to explore this area, you can find a really cool secret room. By making a few turkey jumps, you can climb a little higher up, run along the wall here, and jump through the vines covering up a large hole in the wall, allowing you to enter a room that is filled with turkeys. Other than the stone walls, the plants, and the red ominous light present in this room, there's nothing special going on here. Just a bunch of turkeys in the middle of the Ascalonian catacombs, in a spot you have no reason to go to that is actually kind of tricky to get to. They are just standing there, all staring at the same point in the wall. They don't attack you, they don't run away, they just stand there. Now if you want to know why they are really here, it is another dev's signature. Similar to the swinging boy we talked a bit about earlier, you can find a few different turkeys around the world of Tyria and areas that the dev worked on. But I just love this secret. It's hidden away in a cool way, it is a pretty cool spot in and of itself, and it is completely random. This is one of those cool things that people who take the time to explore the world of Tyria can find and enjoy. And that is the entire video. I hope you enjoyed. There are so many different hidden areas throughout Guild Wars 2, and I have had a great time highlighting so many of them on my channel. Each expansion, like the Visions of Eternity, introduces many different hidden areas, which are always incredible to see, and I am excited to explore new ones in the future. I hope you all are taking great care of yourselves. Have a good one, everyone.